And welcome back. This is part two of Realtor Reacts. This is going to be Jerry and Linda. Um, Part one was kind of interesting. Full disclosure, I had actually filmed part two on the tail end of part one, and then when I went to edit it all together, nothing was captured. There was 40 seconds there. So I kept meaning to sit down throughout the week and get back on it. I just went back and reviewed. I'm pretty much right where we had left off here. So we still have roughly 20 or so minutes left on the video. This is why I broke it up into two parts. I didn't want to make a super long, video. So let's jump back in here. If I remember correctly, um, the meat and potatoes was really here in part two, where it looks like on the Mailbag Monday segment that Jerry and Linda are doing, they're answering questions from the community, which I have Roundtable, which we just created. So similar concept. And now I'm starting to figure out the format now that I've kind of gone through this episode a little bit. Let me get on this real quick. I apologize. Um, it's fairly early in the morning. I'm starting my day off with Realtor Reacts, as we all should. So let's go ahead and hop in here. And this is Jerry and Linda.
And
Yeah.
plus all the things she does outside. So she's a
Yeah.
go-getter, I'm telling you.
All right. What would you say has been your favorite day trip since you moved to the Villages? We've only been on a few day trips. The ones I remember.
What?
Yes, we've gone to.
We've gone to Cocoa Beach. We went to Golf and Gator up there. We took a cat boat ride there. We went to Mount Dora for cat boats. We went to Mount Dora for a float plane ride. We went to Homosassa for an airboat ride. We went to Wild Bill's for an airboat ride.
We did go to see the manatees at Silver Springs. I really
Manatees
did.
twice. Chase Sanctuary.
Yeah.
I guess you're right. We Grandview, Clydesdales twice.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We've been to a few places.
Apopka Wildlife Drive. I can't
Yes.
even remember them all.
Yeah. Yeah. My
But there are
favorite.
lots of things within an hour's drive of here.
What's your favorite?
My favorite, it's hard to beat the Chase Wildlife Sanctuary where lemurs jump on your shoulder and on your head, and you're there with white-tailed deer and giant tortoises, all these cool animals.
That's pretty impressive.
A toucan, there's scarlet macaws. I mean, pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah.
What about you? What was your favorite?
Well, I love the manatees. That was really fun. I love seeing those.
Yeah. And actually kayaking with those manatees when Mike and I got into 100 of them around our boat, that was pretty special.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. Yeah.
But it's not even counting the trip to Boxy Park and to Gatorland down in Florida. And we went to the go-kart track over in Bushnell. And so we've been on quite a few day trips.
There's many more day trips and many more things to do here in Florida. It's a constant adventure.
All right, here's the question.
Okay, so a couple quick things. I'm sweating for some reason today. My goodness, must be getting humid outside. If 3,000 plus clubs wasn't enough, which I believe was established earlier in part one here. The Villages, we talk a lot about the components that kind of make the Villages a resounding success as a retirement community. And the Villages really is so much more than just a retirement community. It exceeded that definition a long, long time ago. But that key position, I remember when I was first training with the developer, and that the key position here in Central Florida, not just because of the temperate weather, right? It can get hot in the summer and it can get cool in the winter. But it's not Miami, which I spent some time in as a young man. And it's not, upstate New York, which I spent some time in as a young man. Very different. Cold and hot have different definitions. But there's so much opportunity in the immediate surrounding area, right? Like Jerry said, or it was either Jerry or Linda said, an hour drive in any direction. And you have a whole new slew of things to enjoy. which is a bane and a boon because my wife constantly wants to take me to Disney World. And I don't hate the mouse. I'm just tired of looking at the mouse. Right? I've lived in Florida a very long time. So, I would prefer to go to Universal at this point if I have to go anywhere. But, because I really don't like to leave the villages, this is home and this is where I'm comfortable and this is what I enjoy. So yeah, I mean, there's a value to that I think that we oftentimes don't talk about. It just doesn't come up in our normal salesy presentation that tends to occur. The other thing I wanted to touch base on here is how many times do you think Jerry and Linda practiced that? I mean, Jerry was firing those off. I don't know if my memory would even be that good. So let's go ahead and jump back in here.
More than a question, it was kind of to let us know about a guy's predicament, much like last week that we had the one where the couple wasn't happy. Well, this fellow is just a pleasant guy. And he says, I was extremely fortunate to have secured a patio villa in Richmond. It took 6 attempts, he said. He was number 1 out of 20 on the one that he got. On closing day, he was so excited, couldn't wait to meet his new neighbors. He bought it sight unseen, you see. He was out of state in Colorado. And here's the rub. In Richmond, most patio villas were snatched up by investors. On his small block of 6 homes, he's the only person that actually lives there.
Oh, my.
The others are all rentals. And some of them are short-term rentals, and one is used for lifestyle visits. So he was looking forward to making some buddies and hanging out, and it's just not happening. But we're going to help him get some friends. And in fact, we're going to post his email address. There it is. I'll put it in the description of the video as well. If you live in the village of Richmond or nearby and you're interested in helping this fella and getting together and making him feel welcome, and he said he's welcoming anyone to write to him, and you guys can make arrangements to maybe take him pickleballing or golfing or
just get together, have a
golf cart ride,
meet at the square,
whatever. Anything.
Go listen to some music.
But we're happy to help because he's a great guy.
Yes, he
is.
His
first impression was not what he'd hoped it would be.
This one is from Bonnie. We are coming from.
So sometimes when you're doing reaction videos to internet stuff, right? You grab a video that was produced later, and then you grab a video down the road that was produced earlier. And I mean, I could be mistaken about this, but that whole scenario sounds like what we did for episode 4, I want to say, here on Realtor React. So I've already spoken about that quite a bit at length. I do feel bad because I've probably got my mug centered between Jerry and Linda here, and I'm covering up the dog in the process of doing that, I suspect. I believe the dog's name is Gizmo. He's adorable. I do remember this part of the segment, and I think I had said something to the effect of, go back and watch episode 4. I'm fairly confident. I believe his name was Mike, if I'm not mistaken. I probably should have gone back and looked at that. I had time. But, yeah, so we'll go ahead and jump back in here. I don't really have much to add to that. We covered it pretty extensively in episode 4 and subsequent times after that.
New York and figure it will be easier and cheaper to buy new furniture than to ship it. Is that what most people do who come from out of town? Where do you buy furniture? Do people tend to move slowly into their homes as they decorate and fix up, or do they move right in? That's a loaded question. That's a lot of things to cover.
I can kind of wrap it up. We know a lot of people, and we see them from the get-go, so we know. And I'm going to tell you, a large amount of people come down here with very little, and they will go to Babette's, City Furniture, or Wayfair, and they'll order an entire house full of furniture. We didn't have that luxury because we bought a house much more expensive than we wanted to, so we didn't feel like we had all that money to spend on furniture. We have a bedroom suite is that what you call it?
Sure.
We've had this discussion before. I mean, it's like $5,000. I wasn't going to leave that in Indiana. We're going to bring that down and sleep on it.
Yeah.
But if you bought a new one, the mattress is, and that didn't even count the mattress. I mean, the mattress is expensive. So we brought it down here. Our moving truck from Indiana cost us $5,000. That's less than the cost of that bedroom outfit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we brought a lot of stuff. We brought our sofa. We brought my chair. We brought this table that right here we're sitting at. We brought all these chairs, 8 of them. We brought a lot of things. We brought 2 other bedroom
suits
outfits. And I figure we can buy new ones anytime.
Yeah.
They also have a little sentimental value to us. That was your grandma's.
Mm-hmm.
That was your grandma's.
That was my parents.
Okay.
Yeah. A lot of furniture were hand-me-downs, but I love them. But yes, you can find a lot of furniture stores here, and there are a lot of secondhand stores too.
You can come here and blow 25 grand on furniture.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you've got the money, you can do it. But we didn't have the money, so we brought our furniture with us.
Yeah, and we got to work on our boxes, and within 2 weeks we had our house finished.
We packed all of our own. I told you 5,000. It seems cheap, doesn't it? We packed all our own boxes, and the biggest hint I can give anybody doing that is label the heck out of those boxes. Mm-hmm. We lost some good things in the move that probably went to the Salvation Army or the Goodwill,
maybe,
or that kind of thing. Label your boxes, pack them yourself, have somebody haul them down. They unloaded them. They put this table together. They put our beds together. They brought in every stick of furniture. Mm-hmm. Good deal. Mm-hmm. Fred and Becca Hobbs from Connecticut, right?
Well, hold on, Fred and Becca Hobbs from Connecticut. I got to hop in here real quick. This actually comes up quite a bit. This is generally a conversation we're having. And the answer changes, and I don't disagree with anything that Jerry and Linda said here. They're spot on. But the answer will change depending upon your usage case, right? Seasonal is very different than full-time. And this kind of goes back to the convenience element, right, when we're talking about a seasonal or part-time property. Seasonal is very different. When you're doing a full-time home and you're looking at the cost of moving existing furniture just opposed to the cost of refurnishing or I said that correctly. Moving your existing furniture is probably going to make more sense on paper cost-wise. But your existing furniture oftentimes is not scaled to the home that you're selecting. It's not going to uniform in the space, right? You're going to then force yourself into a situation where any pieces that aren't coming with you, you're going to try and design around. That's going to become a greater challenge and possibly drive those costs up. Most folks, in my experience, and I, again, not to toot my own horn or anything, but I've done hundreds of transactions here in the villages. Most folks are just going to locally source and refurnish the house. And a lot of the furniture companies here, particularly City Furniture, which came along after, I want to say it was Southern Lifestyles was kind of the go-to there for quite a while, and I guess they closed up shop or maybe they changed brands, but they actually know the floor plans and they can make recommendations. Now, with all that being said, can you get into $25,000, $30,000, $40,000 worth of furniture? Can you get into situations where you are 3, 4, 6 months to a year before your full furniture package arrives and is set up in your house? Yes and yes. Okay? But that's more or less a full-time situation. On a seasonal property, particularly if we're setting up a rental or something, you can furnish the smaller products for right around, I would say, $6,000 to $8,000. Because what happens there is when you're doing the full-time property, you're buying furniture that's of very high quality, typically, or higher quality, I should say. And you're getting things that you like, and you're generally trying to work around some type of theme, or at least a color palette. You're doing the same thing with the seasonal property, but you recognize that this isn't a full-time home. And so we don't need to invest another $20,000 or $30,000, right? We can get by with things that look nice but aren't of the highest quality, okay? And oftentimes we also understand that this furniture package, when we put it together, we're probably going to utilize that as the turnkey package when we go to resale. In a seasonal home situation, that's usually 3 to 4 years, okay? And so the cost can vary. this could be a different question depending upon what we're talking about. Most folks aren't buying the smaller product to move into full-time unless you're a single person, in which case that's a common practice. But the same costs kind of come out in that situation. Let's hop back in here.
Has there ever been a day when you woke up with the intention of taking your golf cart somewhere, but once you realized how hot and humid it was, you opted to take your car with AC instead? Keep sending those positive vibes, they said. All right. I don't think so. If we're going to take the car, it's usually somewhere far away, like the doctor's office.
Right.
Or
groceries if we need to get a lot.
Yeah, we do. If we had to get a huge amount of grocery, we would take the car. If we're getting something small, we generally take the golf cart. Yeah. So I would say no, but I can see why you would. Some days when you open that front door, boom, that humidity smacks you right in the face.
Yep.
And it could be an allergy thing. Right now, my eyes are kind of bothering me.
Yeah.
I don't know why they are.
I don't know. It started after you went fishing. I think he has a fishing allergy. But maybe.
Well, it's not from fish.
No, you didn't get it.
All right.
Okay. This is from Kelly. Number 1, what is...
Sorry, Kelly. As I've stated before, I had a golf car. I had a part-time job, and I would use the golf car to drive back and forth to the part-time job. It was during COVID. Or it was just before COVID, and I wanted we had a new child, and I wanted, the business does fine, but I wanted something a little bit more stable, just to kind of pin down some of the financial concerns I was having at the time. So when you're whipping along in the golf car, regardless of the standing heat or in the humidity, right, you're getting breeze. You're getting a lot of breeze. Even at 10, 15 miles an hour, you're getting a fair amount of wind just whipping along. So it's not like you're being cooled in that process. And as Jerry and Linda had kind of pointed out there, the golf cart typically, and I know we've covered this before and people are going to have different opinions about this, right? But typically it's used for short range, right? It's not usually used for long range. And the example that they gave about the groceries is a great example here, because there's some things that the golf car just isn't going to be optimal for, right? I was in an open house just the other day, and this came up. We were having a conversation about a 1.5 car garage and how realistic it is with the storage needs to utilize it as a full-time home. Part of that conversation was, I do recommend that you have a full-time vehicle, at least one, in conjunction with the golf cart, because they were leaning towards the idea of not having a car at all. And I said, yeah, that's probably not a great idea. I know of folks who have done that and it hasn't worked out well. So that's essentially that point there. Let's jump back in here.
What's the average age of those who are currently moving into the villages? Do we know that?
56 and a half years old. No, we don't know. I made that up.
Yeah.
We have no idea. I know we talk to people all the time. We talk to people 53.
There was a girl today,
51.
54 in the pool today with me.
And we've talked to people 75 that move in.
Yeah.
Somewhere there's an average in there. And the villages sales department could probably give you an idea.
Probably.
If I was guessing, I'd say the average is about 60.
Mm-hmm.
You think?
Yeah, I think
because you
so.
got your 55s and you got your 65s, somewhere in the middle there.
Yeah, I think that's a good one.
Okay.
Number 2, we are looking to move into the villages in 2025. At that time, my husband will be 59 and I'll be 49. Are we going to be too young to make the move, or will it just be me who may feel too young? Okay.
Kelly, come on now. You come down here, you're going to be the belle of the ball probably at age 49. Flavor of the week. But that's not, we know a lot of people that are in their late 40s. They're, your husband or your partner, your significant other is 55, 60, and you're not going to stand out. Nobody's going to, I doubt that people are going to come up to you and go, "Oh my gosh, you're too young."
No. She may look young.
She might.
Yeah, well, that's great. If you can do it, swing it.
We should have asked our friend Holly.
Yeah.
Because Holly is, I'm going to tell him, Holly, you're 60.
She's 60.
But she only looks 40.
I know, that's true. That is so true.
But she fits right in and has a great time.
She had a hot pink suit on today, the bathing suit in the pool. She looks so
Did you get a picture?
good. No, but she looks so good.
Holly watches, so she'll get a kick out of that.
Oh.
Craig.
So I don't think Holly is going to be their friend much longer. I could be wrong. By the way, if you notice a difference in my posture and how I'm sitting versus a couple other videos, I noticed that when I lean back and I take more of a relaxed position, which I want to do because I don't want to be right on top of you, right? The audio quality for me is not that good. I'm using a integrated mic along with the camera here. So the further away I am, the harder it is to hear me, the more ambient noise seems to be in there. So I'm trying to sit closer to the mic and the camera. Hopefully you can see my face and not just my chin, because I don't see myself on the screen anywhere. I remember talking at length about this when I did it the first time, and I made a couple points, particularly around the definition of 55 or older community. Before I get into that, let's address the average age of folks moving into the villages. The reality is that that is all over the place, right? But I will say this. Where do you want to start counting from? Do you want to start counting from folks who are buying seasonal homes and using them 3 months out of the year, 3 to 4 months out of the year, until they reach full retirement or their life circumstances change and thus they decide to make the full-time move? Do we want to start counting from the full-time move? Because where we start counting from is going to change this number drastically. Let's go with the worst case scenario, right? Let's use the seasonal purchase as the entry mark, okay? Even though most of my full-time residents wouldn't consider my seasonal residents to be moving to the villages. But let's go ahead and just use that just for the worst case scenario. Most of those folks are going to range between 53 and 55. Most of the folks who are going to be moving here full-time are going to range between 56 and 58. Now, when you factor in everyone else who isn't most, okay, you're going to get an average of about 59 to 62, but that's going to fluctuate year over year. The developer probably isn't going to be tracking that information. It's not something that they are going to particularly care about. They're looking at the volumes of homes sold, and what products are performing in the marketplace. CDD probably would have that, right? That's a statistical thing, or a census type of situation, so it's probably in the census as well. But the major point that I wanted to touch on here was the idea of aging into the community, okay? And kind of, I think her name was Holly. Kind of the question she had asked was, well, my husband is 59, but I'm 49, and is that going to be a problem, right? The deed restrictions on occupancy, it's not even the deed restrictions really, it's the definition of 55 or older community, but the restrictions around occupancy, not ownership, occupancy, is one member of the household has to be 55 or older. And no one under the age of 18 can live in the villages full time. Now, as you can see, based on that definition, there's a lot of different combinations of scenarios that could come into play. You could have a 27-year-old grandkid who could live with you full time. You could have, and there are exceptions, okay? Exceptions could be rendered. I don't know who makes those decisions. I've never quite got an answer on that, and I've asked a few times over the years. But exceptions can be made. But is there a situation by which you have somebody who is 53 trying to purchase a home in the villages, okay, particularly a new home, and would be able to do so? Absolutely. I'm 41. I could go buy homes in the villages right now. As a matter of fact, I was talking with an investor the other day who's not age qualified, and I laid out a whole plan for him, right? Where to look, what type of product, the whole thing. So the restrictions around occupancy. Her husband's 59, he qualifies. She's 49, but one member of the household is 55 or older, so she's fine. Okay. I've had situations in open houses here recently where it's like the idea of buying into, there's this 20%, okay, a percentage. I don't know if it's even 20%, actually, it might be lower than that, but there's a percentage of the population residing in the villages that is under 55. And they're allowed to occupy those homes on a couple of different bases. They're very close to aging into the community, meaning they're 53, 54. They have an exception. Generally, this is around a hardship in the family. Okay, and again, I don't know who makes that call. But those are usually the situations, right? If the point here is that we generally don't sell into the percentile allowed. Because if we were to, and we got too close, right, things happen that are beyond our control, right? I shouldn't say our control. I don't work with the developer anymore, but there's things that happen that are beyond the developer's control, okay? You don't want to see a world where a catastrophe like the 55 or older community designation gets stripped away by the state. I don't think it would happen, but it could, right? And so we don't want to play with that by getting too close to that allowable percentage. And that's why we typically don't wind up selling into sub 55 or older, or what's called qualified resident. All right, let's jump back in here. I rambled on enough. No more meandering. Here we go.
Greg Vernon wrote this question. If you were looking for a retirement home now, would you or could you pay current housing prices? Would you still be in the villages if you were looking today?
Ooh, great
Craig
question.
Vernon.
That's a good question.
It is.
Yeah.
I don't think we would, because the homes that were in our ballpark, our range that we wanted, I don't think we would be happy with them right now.
Mm-mm.
And we bought one that was probably 65, 70,000 more than we wanted right here.
Mm-hmm.
And we were extending ourselves. We thought that at the time.
Yeah.
Little did we know what was going to happen.
Little did we know.
Yeah. We're happy with our purchase. I don't know about today's prices, but they are coming down.
That's good.
I looked yesterday, just kind of get a feel for it.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of homes that are listed have price reductions.
Good.
But on the other hand, the house right catty corner over here, what's the sale price on that one?
$1.275.
$1.275 million.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. The COVID market. When the COVID market hit, kind of at its peak, right? Because obviously COVID went on way longer than anybody had anticipated or could have projected for. So the standing inventory was about 1/4 of what it's typically at, right? Naturally, when you have a depression in inventory, you're going to have an inflation in housing pricing. Because of the severity and all the issues that kind of led to that situation, we had a massive spike in pricing due to a massive shortage in available housing. This is not a healthy market condition, right? And the question is, would you do it again in the current environment? I think back to the very first video I posted on Facebook before we actually launched the YouTube channel, and I think the title of that was "Is it safe to buy in this market condition?" This was on the tail end as the market was starting to normalize and downslide and re-regulate itself to a baseline. And the argument that I had made in that video was, and I still hold to this today because I've seen it happen a few times now, the natural growth curve going forward will allow you to purchase slightly higher, and therefore it is safe. Okay, the market has to stabilize at some point. It just has to. And I understand, and it's tricky, you don't want to get in too early. Again, I was having this conversation at an open house recently. I had some folks who were just now starting. We were talking about this time frame, and I looked them dead in the eye and I said it would have been incredibly challenging for me, not just with the with the precautionaries, but it would have been incredibly challenging for me to look you in the eye and suggest you during that time when I knew housing prices were up 22% over where they probably should have been, to go ahead and make an investment, because I know full well that given the natural growth curve, right, you'd be lucky to break even on that investment. And every home purchase is an investment. So, regardless of the usage case. So that's just not something I would have been comfortable doing anyways. Now, if subscribe to this channel, you're probably aware that I went to ground during that 2-year window for the most part, and just refused to operate the business during that time for a lot of these reasons. Right? It just I can't in good faith recommend that you purchase a home in this environment, and selling a home in this environment brought certain health risks. So I didn't want to be associated with that either. But the good news is that the market, for the most part, has normalized today. Right, inventory levels are up. Price reductions went on a little too long, but I know the resiliency of the villages, and so I'm not overly concerned about that. By the end of this year, if not the beginning of next year, probably as we close out season of next year, um, everything should be back on track. Things are humming along pretty much the way I expect them to today. So, but I totally get where Jerry and Linda are coming from. I couldn't recommend that you make a purchase during that window of time either. Let's go ahead and jump back in here. So I just went and looked at the remainder balance of the video. I was going to jump back in, but then I noticed there's really not much more. Gizmo's going to tell some jokes. Jerry and Linda are going to thank their super chats and basically talk about a gift that they had received from a subscriber. So that will pretty much conclude our video for today. Hey, we got pretty close to 30 minutes on this one, right? Maybe the part one, part two system is the way to go. Certainly something to keep under consideration. Thank you guys again for joining us. I've had a great time. I hope you got some value out of this interaction. Feel free to save this one. We touched down on some good points today, and I always enjoy it when we get something solid that could be useful to you in your decision making and in your information gathering activities. So feel free to pop around the channel, check out some other videos. Thanks again for coming and joining us on this Sunday morning, if it's Sunday morning for you. We'll see you next time around. Take care of yourself. Take care of others. Thanks again.